Hey, what's up guys? My name is Sheeta12 and I am here to bring you another Bastion guide. Uh, I will show you guys how to play Bastion in this guide, of course, but my last guide wasn't that good, so I'm making another one, but this time I'm gonna jump into the tips and the strategies much faster than the last guide. The last guide I barely even fully described, like the repositioning and the just lots of stuff about him. So I'm sure that many of you do not play Bastion, so that's why I'm making this guide to help you as well. I'm currently in Masters and I have 630 hours on him, and I've been through a lot, but like I'm just ready to show you guys pretty much almost everything I know in this one guide. So stick around, and here we go. So the first thing that I want to quickly jump into is the fact that you have to reposition a lot. I didn't really describe this much in the last video. So when you reposition as Bastion, you do not want to stay in the same spot. You do not want to camp, basically, because if you camp, then they'll figure out where you are, the enemy team. Um, but if you reposition yourself, they'll have a bit of trouble knowing where you are, and they'll be like, "Where's the Bastion?" And then you could flank, or you could play very passive, and you can stay in the back and unexpectedly just lure them into you, and then you can kill them with sentry. And so yeah, that's the first tip that I have. So the next tip that I have for him is in tank and sentry form, like, do not, I repeat, do not shoot at tank heroes in tank form, because you will not get any kills, you will not make any progress, you will not do shit. If you go in sentry form and go for tanks, it'll be a lot more effective because you shred enemies with sentry form. I mean, you can go for squishy heroes, but it's not going to work as well as going for tanks. So to start you guys off, I would recommend going for tank heroes in sentry form. So that's one thing. So another thing that I want to mention about his configurations is another tip is whenever you're shooting and you have to reload, you can go into recon and just unload that clip. Lots of people, like lots of other Bastion guides, say that you could do that, but I would actually recommend, instead of doing that, you would jump behind a shield whenever you're out of ammo in sentry. You're out of ammo, and then you jump behind the shield, and instead of just getting in recon and shooting to make it like endless firepower and all, you don't do that. Heal instead of reloading. Get in recon and heal, because it's a waste of time if you just sit there and recon with your big ass hitbox and just shoot in one direction, because you're not going to do anything. You might get sniped, you might get dived, whatever. Like, but just the main tip for reloading in sentry from my point of view is you jump behind the shield and heal. If you don't have a shield, then walls are your best friend from there. Okay, so a tip for tank form, a very important tip, is something that lots of you have heard me talk about, and lots of other Bastion guides mention this, is rocket jumping. Rocket jumping is aiming at the ground and then jumping, right? Like, easy enough. Like, you just shoot at the ground and jump at the same time, and then you fly in the air and you get on high ground. Like, that's what lots of people think it's used for, but it can also be used for many other things besides that. But first of all, you always want to heal after you rocket jump. If you do not heal after you rocket jump, you have a chance of dying. Like, I've seen that player, the Fran or whatever his name is, like, he plays a lot of DPS. He played Bastion and he rocket jumped, but he didn't heal. And I disagree with that. I think that you should heal right after you rocket jump. But a tip for rocket jumping is people think it's just aiming straight at the ground and jumping at the same time to get on high ground, but it's not. Like, you can do more than that. You could use it to threaten the enemy team. You could use it to you could use it to escape, escape areas that you found yourself in. All right, so there are also different ways to rocket jump. An example, like in one of Colorblind's videos, he mentioned that you can rocket jump quickly, you can rocket jump slowly, and you can like rocket jump basically by shooting a shot behind you. But lots of people, what they do is they just like turn around and shoot a shot behind them and jump at the same time to rocket jump. But I call that a boost jump, and it's not really effective because it's just boosting yourself forward. It's not really doing anything. It's kind of like a Zarya's rocket jump, you know, where they shoot the projectile at the ground and jump. Um, but another thing that you can do when rocket jumping is, I call this a quick jump, where you quickly look at the ground at an angle. You don't, like, lots of people say that you should look straight down and rocket jump, but I disagree. Sometimes you don't have to do that. You can just look at an angle and then quickly just kaboom, just rocket jump in the air. But you won't fly as high, but you'll go a bit further from what I've experienced. Like, it seems like you'll go a bit further, and especially if you're on high ground, you can like shoot the corner of like the high ground, and then you could just like fly forward. It's hard to explain, but I could probably like show you guys a video in the future of it. But the main way to rocket jump, which is the way that most people do besides the boost jump, is normal rocket jumping, or as Colorblind says, it's called super jumping. It's where you aim at the ground and shoot at the same time, but you shoot right before you jump, like less than a second before you jump, you shoot, and then you'll fly in the air like higher than normal. I say that that is used to get on high ground a lot, and yeah, and once you're transforming out of tank form, you can transform right into sentry, and then you'll have the ironclad and the resistance, and you'll be able to shoot enemies from medium to close range from there. So in recon, in his recon form, which is his normal gun form, if you're not familiar with the name, it's not a very good form. I mainly use it for as my secondary fire, to basically take out snipers that are on low health or something, or I really just barely use it at all. I only really use it when I'm reloading to heal, or if I'm like going to back and forth to a position, to one position to another. You just use recon to get to the other position that you want to get to. His burst firing in recon is not good. You do not burst fire in recon, because it is actually a pretty accurate weapon. So if you need to take out a Pharah and you're out of ammo in sentry, just quickly transform into recon, and do not burst fire, because burst firing as Bastion isn't that good. Like, burst firing as Soldier 76 is pretty decent, but as Bastion, his gun is more accurate, and the spread is like a bit more accurate, so you cannot burst fire. Okay, so now that you know a lot about the configurations that he has, I'm gonna mention different stuff that I do in the game. So basically, you'll see me in lots of YouTube videos and lots of montages. I'm always looking around too much, and I'm always way too careful about my surroundings. Like, I look at places where the enemies aren't really expected to come from, but that's because I'm really careful. I'm really you see, the way I play Bastion is I always need to look around, because there could be a Sombra just sitting right behind you about to shoot your little cube in the back, and that's not really good. So you have to have a really good reaction speed to things that are getting behind you and in front of you, and like they'll be running like a dive comp, and they'll be like going straight towards you, and that's when you have to constantly quickly choose which character you're going to focus first. And while you're focusing people, while you're turning to focus somebody, you should be healing, because it's the best way to focus down enemies one at a time. because Bastion can't focus everyone at once. And so lots of Bastions, what I see them do is whenever the enemies are coming straight for them, they immediately just hop out and get in recon, and then just like try to run away while healing. I do that sometimes, but I disagree with it because I think since you have the resistance and sentry, like no matter how bad the resistance is, like it's still ironclad, it's still a resistance, so their their damage is going to be less effective on you, even though you're a sitting duck. You'll be able to focus down enemies quickly. Now, if you're on low health and sentry and you have to focus somebody down like as quickly as ever, focus down a squishy hero. Don't focus down a tank hero because, alright, I forgot to mention this, squishy heroes are 200 health heroes if you didn't know, but because if you focus down a tank hero while you're on low health and you have to escape, you're not going to do anything. You're just going to melt them down to half health. But if you go for a squishy hero in Sentry, then you'll probably kill them before you die, so it's a trade-off. I also want to mention that as you get more hours on Bastion, like, I don't know how many hours, like, it takes, but over time, your reaction speed will get so much better. Like, during the time that I had 400 hours on like 300 to 400 hours, I was kicking ass. My reaction speed was so good, but it's not as good as it is now, because now I'm just more of a solid Bastion main. Like back then I was just kind of loose with it and I didn't really care as much. I just kind of like, I would kind of react to my enemies, but I would forget that I have a resistance in Sentry and I can survive lots of stuff. So if you're going to do risky things, you have to have a good reaction speed. Like for example, if you go on that little tile thing on Volskaya, or if you go on that little tile thing on Route 66, lots of people will focus you because you're so visible to the enemy team. But if you have a good like sense of reaction, and if you could see everything and you know where the enemies are and you know that they're about to flank you or dive you, then that's when like you should not really fear the risk of doing that. Now I make the mistake of doing that too much sometimes, but don't worry about it once you know that your reaction speed is good. Okay, so I will be going over now Bastion versus every hero, and I took inspiration from Karq and Tuskor. Props to them. Okay, so let's get started. D.Va, she'll put up her defense matrix and start shooting her missiles at you. What I like to do is I just like to shoot through it. Lots of people will disagree and they'll be like, no, you should be healing. But if your teammates are healing you, then you can actually survive it. And but other than that, you might want to heal. Like, but I just don't heal. For Orisa, she'll put up her shield, she'll put up that ability where she turns gold and all. That's when you want to avoid her. But when she drops the shield and doesn't have the ability, that's when you take her out. For Zarya, she'll put up her bubble, and if you're far away from her, don't shoot at her, but if you're close to her and you know you could kill her, that's when you want to shoot at her. That's when you want to kill her. If you're on high ground, she'll be forced to use her, sorry. She'll be forced to use her, secondary fire on you, the little balls, so you'll be able to survive that too. For Reinhardt, Colorblind mentioned in one of his videos that you should be you could just sit there and mow him down while he's coming towards you. I agree with it, but what I like to do is whenever he's close to you, I like to jump out and recon and then just quickly turn around and transform again into Sentry. Then that's when you want to start shooting at him, because he'll turn around and put his shield up, and then you just keep spraying at him because he won't be able to do anything from there except like fire strike you. Sorry guys. For Winston, Bastion completely melts Winston. There's no actual tip I could really give except for shooting at him in Sentry. Do not waste recon on him, because he won't die from recon unless he's in the air. And if he's low health in the air, then that's when you want to just peck him in recon, unless you're already rooted to the ground in Sentry. For Wrecking Ball Hammond, whatever, the hamster. It's the same tip from Winston. You just melt him. His ultimate is very annoying to deal with because he can just press a button and then you're probably gonna die from the grenades. But just don't worry about it too much. Just kill him in Sentry. Oh gosh. Alright, so moving on to the DPS. Bastion v Bastion fights. Whoever gets in Sentry first wins. It's very simple. Bastion v Doomfist. If you have good tracking and good reaction speed and Sentry, then you quickly just want to take him out because he doesn't have any defensive abilities except for except for the passive ability, but you can easily melt that in 2 seconds. So he can't move you while you're in Sentry form, even though he is pretty annoying to deal with if you're caught off guard and you're caught with your pants down. Genji, do not shoot at the Genji deflect, of course. It's a simple rule. You can heal through it, but the main thing about Bastion versus Genji is you always want to have all of your bullets hitting him at all times. If you're like missing your bullets and you're in Sentry, alright, first of all, you always want to get in Sentry. Do not stay in Recon and try to kill the Genji. You can't do that unless you have really good aim. Sit in Sentry and try to track the Genji down, observe his movement and his behavior. What's the next one? McCree, I'll just say McCree. You can easily melt him if he's like doing that little thing where he walks back and forth, You could easily melt him in Sentry form. Do not use Recon unless he's low to have health. He's easy to hit in tank form, especially if he's in High Noon. For Pharah, don't try to go for her in tank form unless you're really confident. You'll see me do that a lot in my videos. I just shoot her in tank form. Because it may look like it takes me just one shot to kill her, but I actually waste my entire tank form just trying to kill a Pharah. So don't try to do that. Just kill her in Sentry form later on, and yeah. For Soldier, everything that Bastion does pretty much shuts him down because he's basically Recon form, but he has better healing and better no, not better healing, better mobility. So you could easily kill him in Sentry form, and if you're confident enough, you can actually go for him in Recon form if you hit all the directs. I'm sorry guys. Reaper, he'll teleport behind you or like near you or on high ground above you. Just don't worry about it. Just quickly get in Recon, and then whenever he sees you and you're in Recon, he'll be like, oh, I'm gonna go kill the Bastion. That's when you want to quickly transform into Sentry and then take him out, because he's really easy to track if you have really good tracking and aiming. It takes practice to learn how to fight against Reaper. It took me a really long time, but I eventually figured out that Sentry form is so effective against him, and tank form is very effective as well. Just don't be in Recon form. For Sombra, she'll try to hack you, of course, when you're in Sentry and stuff. Just shoot her in the head when you're in Recon. Just quickly turn around, act like you can't even see her, even though you know she's behind you. Quickly just turn around as soon as you hear that hack sound. And like Colorblind said, you could also press the tank button, press tank, and then just one-shot her. But what I like to do is I quickly turn around and Recon, just shoot her in the head a bunch of times. For is that all the DPS? No, it's not. For Hanzo, he'll shoot a storm arrow at you. What I've eventually kind of figured out that when you're in Sentry, you might be able to melt him faster if you hit all of your bullets. So always be in Sentry unless he hits the first 2 arrows on you. Once he hits the first 2 arrows on you and you haven't reacted in time, that's when you want to quickly get behind a wall, heal, do whatever you need to do, and then quickly pop out and kill him. But like, just don't deal with him. It's not really your job. Same with Widowmaker. It's not really your job to kill her. For Okay, so for I'm gonna quickly move on to the healers, and I'm gonna like look up a picture of all the DPS characters to see if I got all of them. For Mercy, it's the same as Pharah. Same tip I gave for Pharah, except you can melt her much easier in Sentry form than any other mode. Bastion's the only hero that can actually melt her. For Ana, she'll try to sleep you while you're in Sentry form. Like, tell your team to like just body block you and defend you from that bullcrap. For a Tracer, alright, I just remembered that Tracer was one of the DPS. For Tracer, you transform in Sentry and Shooter, but do not get in Recon and try to avoid the Pulse Bomb, because you can now survive it, because you have the damage resistance. So you can survive her Pulse Bomb now, so what you want to do is, when she Pulse Bombs you, you want to quickly heal. Because if you sit there and try to shoot at her while she recalls after she Pulse Bombs you, that's when you'll die. But if she's teleporting around you and stuff, trying to build her ultimate, that's when you go for the kill. That's when you easily just try to track her in Sentry. She's not that big of a deal anymore if you have good aim. For Junkrat, he'll get on high ground and start spamming his little grenades at you constantly, and like utilize recon form if he's like on high ground, and sentry form if he's on even to low ground. For Mei, she'll try to freeze you, but the only really tip I have for Mei is always use sentry form against her, because you can melt her walls, and if you have good enough aim and you hit all of your bullets on her, you'll be able to track her down before she kills you. So you'll be able to kill her before she freezes you. Alright, one more DPS. For Torbjorn, his little turret, it starts shooting at you. Boom, 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 boom. If the Torb is near you, go for the Torb. But if the turret is near you and the Torb isn't anywhere near, lots of people would say you're wasting your time on the turret if you shoot it, but like, just melt it. Just melt it to be a threat to him. He'll be like, oh no, my turret. He'll be like, oh my gosh, they destroyed it. Where do I put it now? And then while he's like trying to find a position to put his turret, that's when you go for the kill. Sentry is really effective against him. Whenever he throws his little molten fire, like the reworked Torbjorn that just came out, and once he throws the little fire at you, lava, whatever, you have to get out of that. Symmetra, oh yeah, Symmetra's a DPS now. For Symmetra, she'll start spamming her orbs at you rather than her laser, but that's when you just get out of position quickly, unless she's spamming the tiny little orbs at you. That's when you can kill her. But mainly use Sentry if you're close, but if you're far away, you could actually kill her pretty easily in Recon. Don't waste your time on her turrets, because that's the Winston's job, unless you don't have any Winston. Like, if you don't have a Winston, then you could probably just kill her. No, my bad. Kill the turrets. Oh yeah, I forgot Roadhog. Roadhog, he'll hook you. He'll hook you when you're in Sentry, and he'll try to one-shot you. But what you want to do against that is, I figured out a little move, and I quickly just jump around him while healing, and he won't be able to shoot you, because his aim will be thrown off. And then while he's healing, that's when you transform into Sentry. And he has two choices. He'll either ult, or he'll hook you again. And if he hooks you again, just repeat the strategy that I told you about. Repeat the strategy that I mentioned. But if he like presses his ultimate button, that's when you get in Recon and immediately start healing, because he'll knock you away from him. And once you're at the correct distance, you quickly transform into Sentry and just take him out from there. Shields are very effective against the Roadhog. Okay, now moving on to the supports. I already mentioned Mercy and Ana. For Moira, she'll she's not that big of a deal, honestly. She'll try to run around you with her coalescence and all that, but just melt her. It's that easy. Lucio, same thing, just melt him. Zenyatta, if he's half health and he's charging his little orbs, you don't want to be in Sentry whenever he's charging his little orbs because they can one-shot you, so that's when you get out. But whenever he's low health, you can actually peck him in recon and quickly like jump around him and stuff, so it throws off his aim. Zenyatta's like not that big of a threat to Bastion unless Bastion's in Sentry form. Um, and the last character is Brigitte or whatever. Um, I gotta think. Brigitte. She'll what she'll do is she'll walk up to you with her shield up, cause kind of like a Reinhardt, but you can melt that thing so fast that she won't see what's coming, and you'll just melt her, and she won't have her shield. So what she'll do is she'll probably stun you, or she'll just keep throwing her little flail at you, and that's when it's basically just like going Sentry form and melt her. You can't really do much in recon. You can't really do too much in tank, but what you want to do is melt her in Sentry form. Okay, well, that's the end of the Bastion guide. I hope you guys enjoyed. This was a really, really long guide. I'm sorry for wasting your time or whatever. But I hope you enjoyed it. And I really hope these tips helped you. Especially the Bastion versus every hero thing that I just went over. And yeah, have a good day.